Seattle, summer of 1973. The Pacific Northwest Karate Championships have drawn close to 5,000 people into the downtown arena, and tonight's main event has held the crowd's attention through 3 brutal rounds, ending with the same fighter who has dominated this entire tournament, standing victorious in the center of the mat. Her name is Caroline Voss, 27 years old, a third-degree black belt who has spent the last 6 years building one of the most feared records on the West Coast competitive circuit. 44 wins, 0 losses, 31 of those wins by clean knockout. She fights with a controlled fury that has made her matches must-see events across the entire region. And tonight, she has just finished off her toughest opponent of the tournament with a combination that left the crowd on its feet. The tournament organizer, a longtime promoter named Harold Fitch, has arranged something special for tonight's championship presentation. He's gotten word that Bruce Lee will be in town this week for promotional appearances related to his upcoming film. And through a mutual contact, he secured Bruce's agreement to come present the championship trophy personally, a genuine coup for an event this size. The crowd has no idea this is coming. When the announcer calls Bruce's name over the loudspeaker, asking him to come to the mat to present the championship belt, the arena explodes into noise. 5,000 people rising to their feet at once. The specific roar that happens when an audience gets something they didn't know to expect. Bruce walks out from the side entrance wearing a simple dark jacket, smiling easily, clearly enjoying the warmth of the reception. He crosses the mat toward Caroline, who is standing in the center, still catching her breath from the final match, sweat visible on her face under the bright arena lights. The championship belt resting on a small table nearby, waiting to be presented. Bruce extends his hand toward her, intending the traditional bow that marks the end of any serious competition, the gesture of respect between fighters and between a champion and whoever is honoring that championship. Caroline doesn't bow. She stands there, arms crossed, looking at Bruce with an expression that has nothing warm in it at all. A confused murmur moves through the crowd. Bruce, still smiling, holds his position for a moment, giving her space to complete the gesture everyone in the building expects. She still doesn't move. Harold Fitch, standing nearby with the championship belt in his hands, looks between the two of them with visible confusion, unsure what's happening or how to proceed. Caroline reaches over and takes the microphone from the announcer stand without asking permission. "I want to say something," she says, her voice carrying clearly through the arena's speaker system. The crowd quiets, sensing something unusual unfolding. "I just spent 6 years building this record," Caroline says. 44 fights, against real opponents in real competition with real rules and real consequences when you lose. And now you're telling me the person who gets to hand me my trophy is a movie star." Scattered murmurs of confusion ripple through the crowd. "No offense," she continues, though her tone makes clear she means plenty of offense. "But what exactly qualifies you to be standing on this mat tonight? You make movies, I've seen them. They're entertaining, I'll give you that. But entertaining isn't the same thing as fighting." Bruce's expression shifts slightly, the easy smile fading into something more attentive, more serious. Though he still hasn't said anything. "Everyone in this building tonight watched real competition," Caroline says, raising her voice now, clearly building towards something. "Real technique tested against real resistance. What exactly have you tested besides how good you look on a film set with a stunt coordinator standing 3 feet away?" The arena has gone fully silent now. 5,000 people watching this unfold with the specific tension of an audience that came for a celebration and is suddenly witnessing something they didn't expect at all. Harold Fitch steps forward, reaching for the microphone. Caroline lets not. She pulls it away from him, refusing to let go. "I'm not finished," she says sharply. "I worked too hard for this to stand here and pretend some Hollywood kung fu actor has any business handing me anything tonight." The crowd's reaction has split clearly now, some people murmuring in obvious discomfort, others watching with the specific fascination that comes from witnessing genuine unscripted conflict. Bruce stands quietly through all of this, watching her carefully, reading something in her posture and her voice that goes beyond just the words themselves. When she finally pauses, giving the moment room to breathe, he speaks. "Can I respond to that?" He asks, his voice calm, carrying easily despite not having a microphone of his own. "Go ahead," Caroline says, crossing her arms again. You're right that I make films, Bruce says, and you're right that what gets shown on a movie screen isn't the same thing as a tournament fight with real consequences. I won't argue with either of those points. A few people in the crowd nod at this, appreciating that he's not denying anything outright. But you're assuming that because I work in film, I haven't actually trained or tested what I do, Bruce continues. That's a different claim, and it's the one I'd push back on. Caroline's jaw tightens. Then prove it, she says, loud enough that the arena's speakers carry it clearly. Right here, right now, let's see if the movie star can actually back up anything he just said. The crowd reacts immediately, a wave of excited noise rolling through the arena. 5,000 people sensing that something genuinely unplanned is about to happen in front of them. Harold Fitch looks utterly panicked now, glancing between Caroline and Bruce, with the expression of a promoter watching his carefully organized championship ceremony spiral into something he has absolutely no control over. Bruce looks at Caroline for a long moment. If that's what you want, he says, I'm not going to refuse a challenge made in front of this many people, but I want to be clear about something first. What's that? Caroline says, her tone still sharp. You said I haven't tested anything. Bruce says, let's actually find out if that's true, but understand, once we start, I'm not going to hold back just because you're the one who spent 6 years building a perfect record. You asked for this. You're going to get the real version of it. The crowd roars at this, the energy in the building shifting completely from confused discomfort into electric anticipation. Caroline smirks. I've fought 44 times, she says. I'm not worried about whatever you think you're bringing. She drops the microphone onto the table beside the championship belt and steps back into a fighting stance. The same stance that has ended 31 opponents by knockout over the last 6 years. The arena's referee, sensing that this has become something he needs to formally manage rather than just watch unfold, steps onto the mat between them. Light contact, he says firmly. This is not a sanctioned match. Either fighter can call it. Both of them nod, though neither takes their eyes off the other. The referee steps back and calls the start. Caroline moves first, exploding forward with a reverse punch that has ended fights all night, fast and committed and backed by genuine power. Bruce isn't there when it arrives. His head shifts 4 in, the punch passing through nothing, and before Caroline has even fully recovered her extension, his open palm finds her exposed ribs with a clean, precise touch. 1 point. 2 seconds elapsed. The arena makes a sound somewhere between gasping and disbelief. 5,000 people watching their undefeated champion get touched cleanly by someone they assumed had no business being on the mat at all. Caroline's eyes widen for just a moment before her training takes over, resetting immediately, throwing a front kick this time, trying to use distance and reach to control the exchange. Bruce steps sideways, letting the kick pass through empty space, and as her leg extends fully, he closes the distance in the same motion, tapping her shoulder before she can recover her stance. 2 points, 4 seconds elapsed. The crowd's noise has shifted entirely now. The earlier discomfort, replaced by a building roar of genuine astonishment. Caroline's face has gone tight with something beyond focus. Now the specific tightness of someone realizing in real time that everything she assumed walking into this exchange might be wrong. She comes a third time faster, more aggressive, throwing a spinning back kick that has finished opponents throughout this entire tournament. Bruce moves inside the rotation entirely. The kick passing harmlessly behind him, and his hand finds her collarbone with a light, controlled touch before she's even completed the spin. 3 points, 7 seconds elapsed. The arena has gone almost completely silent now. The kind of silence that happens when an audience watches something so far outside their expectations that even cheering feels inadequate to the moment. Caroline stands there for a second, breathing hard, staring at Bruce with an expression that has moved past anger into something closer to genuine shock. Then pride, wounded and looking for somewhere to direct itself, pushes her forward one final time, abandoning technique almost entirely in favor of pure aggressive momentum, throwing a wild combination meant simply to land something, anything, in front of the crowd that has watched her dominate every previous opponent this entire tournament. Bruce slips the first strike, redirects the second with a touch to her extended arm, and as she overcommits on the third, steps in close and taps her chest with an open palm. The contact light but unmistakable, 4 points, 10 seconds, total elapsed time. From the first exchange to the last, the arena explodes into noise unlike anything that has happened all night. 5,000 people on their feet. The specific roar that comes from watching something nobody walked into the building expecting to see. Caroline stands frozen in the center of the mat, her chest heaving, her face flushed with something far beyond physical exertion. Now she has just been touched 4 clean times in 10 seconds by someone she publicly humiliated less than 2 minutes earlier in front of every person who watched her build her perfect record over 6 years of genuine competition. "That's not real karate," she says, her voice shaking now, the words coming out fast and defensive. "You're not even using real technique. That's some kind of trick you learned for the cameras." "That was real technique," Bruce says, his tone still completely calm. "Your rules, your scoring, the same rules you've used to win 44 matches. I used exactly the system you respect." "Do it again," Caroline says, her voice rising further, the crowd's roar settling just enough for her words to carry clearly. "No tricks, real fighting, not whatever fast-hand stuff you just did." The referee steps between them again, sensing the temperature climbing into something dangerous. "Caroline, I think that's enough." "I said again," she snaps, cutting him off, stepping back into her fighting stance with visible fury now driving every line of her posture. Bruce looks at her for a long moment. He could decline this. Everyone in the building would understand completely if he did, given that she's the one who escalated this from a simple trophy presentation into a public confrontation. But something in her expression tells him that walking away now would only leave whatever is happening inside her unresolved, festering into something worse than what a continued exchange might actually settle. "All right," Bruce says quietly, "but understand something. If you keep pushing past what this was supposed to be, you're not going to like how far this goes." Caroline doesn't answer. She simply attacks harder than before, abandoning all pretense of careful technique in favor of overwhelming aggression, throwing everything she has built across 6 years of serious training in one continuous desperate assault. Bruce moves through it without retreating, finding the gaps between her strikes the way water finds the spaces in a riverbed, never striking back with anything beyond the lightest possible controlled contact, simply demonstrating again and again that nothing she throws is finding him. When she finally overextends on a hook kick aimed at his head, he steps in close, catches her extended leg gently, and with a small controlled redirection of her own momentum, brings her down to the mat. Not violently, not with any real force behind it. Just enough to put her on her back in front of the entire arena, staring up at the lights, completely unable to process how she ended up there. The crowd has gone past roaring, now into something closer to stunned silence again, watching their undefeated champion lying on her back for the second time tonight. Caroline sits up slowly, refusing the hand Bruce extends toward her, getting to her feet entirely on her own, her whole body rigid with humiliation now rather than simple anger. "This isn't over," she says loud enough that the nearby microphone, still resting on the table where she dropped it, catches the words clearly. "For tonight." "It is," the referee says firmly, stepping fully between them now. Security beginning to move toward the edge of the mat, sensing correctly that this has moved somewhere that needs careful managing, Caroline glares at Bruce across the small distance the officials have created. Her whole frame still tense with something that looks like it wants somewhere else to go. Bruce doesn't step back from her, he simply stands there calm, watching her work through whatever is happening inside her without offering any further provocation. "You think this proves something?" she says, her voice tight. "I think it proved exactly what you asked it to prove." Bruce says, "You said I hadn't tested anything real. We found out that wasn't true. That's all tonight was ever going to show." Once you decided to make it about that, instead of about a trophy ceremony, something in this answer seems to land differently than anything that's happened in the last 10 seconds. And for a moment, the rigid anger in her posture flickers into something less certain, something closer to the beginning of genuine reckoning. Harold Fitch, sensing an opportunity to redirect the moment before it curdles further, steps forward with his own microphone, the championship belt, still sitting forgotten on the side table. "Folks," he says, his voice shaking slightly, "let's give both these incredible athletes a round of applause." The crowd responds, though the applause carries that same strange mixed quality, equal parts genuine awe and lingering discomfort at how raw the last several minutes have become. Caroline stands there breathing hard, looking at the championship belt sitting on the table a few feet away. The trophy that represented 6 years of work suddenly feels like it belongs to a different night entirely. A night that ended about 10 minutes ago when she decided not to bow. She looks at Bruce. "I worked 6 years for that record," she says, quieter now, mostly just for him. "Nobody's taking that away from you." Bruce says, "What you built before tonight is still real." The 44 wins, the discipline behind them, none of that disappeared because of what happened on this mat just now. But you asked the wrong question tonight in front of the wrong number of people, and you're going to have to live with how that played out. She's quiet for a long moment processing this. "I shouldn't have said what I said," she admits finally, the words coming out slowly, like each one costs her something. "About you being fake, about not having any right to be here." "Probably not." Bruce agrees without any edge in his voice. "Why didn't you just walk away when I refused to bow?" she asks. "You could have. Nobody would have blamed you." Bruce considers this honestly. "Because you took a microphone in front of 5,000 people and called something fake without ever actually testing whether it was." He says, "I don't mind someone disagreeing with me. I mind someone making a public claim about something they haven't bothered to examine. Those are different things." Caroline absorbs this, her jaw working slightly, the rigid defensiveness from earlier finally starting to ease into something closer to real reflection. "I've never lost like that," she says quietly. "Not the match, the other part. Standing up there in front of everyone being completely wrong about something I was so sure about. That's harder than losing a match." Bruce says, "Most people never have to feel that particular thing. You're feeling it tonight in front of 5,000 people, which makes it considerably worse, but it also means you're not going to forget it. And that's worth something, even if it doesn't feel like it right now." She's quiet for a while longer, looking at the championship belt, then back at Bruce. Slowly, deliberately, she extends her hand. Bruce takes it. The crowd, sensing the genuine shift happening in front of them, begins to applaud again, building gradually into something that sounds considerably more sincere than the confused noise from a few minutes earlier. "I owe you an apology," Caroline says, loud enough now that the nearby microphone picks it up and carries it through the whole arena. "Not because I lost, because of how I treated you before any of this even started. You came here to do something genuinely kind for this event, and I turned it into something ugly in front of everyone who came to watch tonight." Bruce nods, accepting this simply. "Apology accepted," he says. "And for what it's worth, what you built before tonight, the 6 years, the 44 wins, all of that is still exactly as real as it was an hour ago. Tonight just added something to what you understand. Rather than taking anything away from what you'd already earned, something shifts visibly in her posture at this, the last of the tension finally draining out of her shoulders. Harold Fitch, sensing the moment has found its resolution, steps forward and picks up the championship belt from the side table. "I think," he says carefully, "we should finish what we actually came here to do tonight." He hands the belt to Bruce, who turns and presents it properly to Caroline, the gesture this time carrying real weight behind it. She accepts it, and this time, without anyone needing to ask, she bows. Bruce returns it exactly as deep. The arena erupts into applause that carries none of the strange mixed quality from before, simply loud and sustained and completely genuine. Later that night, after the arena has mostly cleared out, Caroline finds Bruce near the building's side exit. The championship belt still slung over her shoulder, her gi jacket replaced by a simple jacket against the cool evening air. "Can I ask you something?" she says. "Of course. The first exchange when you read my reverse punch before I'd even finished extending it. How did you see that coming so fast?" Bruce thinks about how to answer honestly. "Your shoulder drops slightly right before you commit to a straight punch," he says. "It's subtle, but it's consistent. I watched part of your earlier matches tonight before any of this happened between us. I noticed it then, the same way I notice things in anyone I watch fight seriously." She absorbs this, working her shoulders slightly, testing the description against her own memory. "Nobody's ever told me that," she says, "not in 6 years of competing." "Most people watching a fight are watching the technique itself," Bruce says, "not what happens right before it commits. That's a different kind of attention. It takes a long time to build. Could you teach me that kind of attention?" she asks, and the question comes out stripped of everything that defined her earlier in the evening, just genuine curiosity from someone who has clearly started to understand. There's something here worth learning. Bruce looks at her for a moment. If you're willing to be wrong about things the way you were wrong tonight, he says, then yes, that's most of what it actually takes. She nods slowly. I think I'd like that, she says. They talk for a while longer in the emptying parking lot, working through specifics, Caroline asking pointed technical questions and Bruce answering them honestly. The conversation gradually becoming something considerably more valuable than what either of them walked into that arena expecting tonight to be. The newspapers the next morning focus on the spectacle, the stunning exchange, the undefeated champion. Humbled in 10 seconds by a film star, nobody expected to step onto a competitive mat. But the people who were actually in that arena remember something slightly different and considerably more important. They remember a woman who refused to bow, who said something cruel in front of everyone who came to celebrate her achievement, who got shown clearly and completely how wrong she was, and who then in front of all those same people found the harder kind of courage required to bow properly and mean it.